Teal Deer, Zoe Quinn, the BBC, and Gamergate. Let's do this. On the 29th of October 2014, the BBC published this article about Zoe Quinn talking about Gamergate, entitled Zoe Quinn, Gamergate Must Be Condemned. Now, it does have a little video there, but unfortunately I'm too bad at computers to download it and do a critique of that, so I may have to do that later, but for now we're just going to look at the contents of the article. It opens up with the sort of little bold title down there, Games publishers and industry figures must stand up and condemn the movement referred to as Gamergate, developer Zoe Quinn has told the BBC. Let's go on. Miss Quinn has been at the centre of a furore which some argue is about ethics in journalism, but others consider to be largely misogynistic hate campaign. Pro tip, half of those people are right and the other half are morons. We're going to cover that a little bit later. The 27-year-old was forced to leave her home after receiving death threats. So she's so terrified for her life that she is able to appear on TV, still go to public speaking engagements, and then go and meet up with various BBC reporters. So she's absolutely terrified to go out in public, as I'm sure you can see. She said publishers must say Gamergate and what it's been doing is wrong. Now, the problem with this statement is a lot of publishers and games developers are siding with Gamergate because they are terrified to speak out against it, because if they do, they are aware that their products are going to be absolutely slandered, absolutely destroyed and ripped to pieces by the gaming press, who have control of the narrative of all of these games. But let's go on anyway. The fact that so much of the responsibility is offloaded to the people most harmed by it, when somebody in a much safer position than I am can stand up and condemn it, it's frustrating. So what she's saying there is that all the people who are at the forefront of this thing, people like, Zoe Quinn, Brianna Wu, and Anita Sarkeesian, are bearing an unfair amount of hate from all of this Gamergate nonsense, when bigger publishers and corporations could be, taking all of that force. The problem is, that's completely incorrect. The reason that these people are sort of being attacked is, well, actually, they're not. Who has even mentioned Zoe Quinn for weeks? She has not been talked about in Gamergate for weeks. She was relevant in the first week when the blog post, the Zoe post, was actually there and uncovered the journalistic lack of ethics. But since then, she's become totally irrelevant. The only reason that she is now saying that she's at the forefront of this and she's being harmed by it, which is the same story that people like Brianna Wu are trying to push out there, is because this has only just reached mainstream media attention. And that's kind of given them this golden opportunity to leap in and do the victim complex, because, that's what they're able to do. They are getting their story out to the big wide world before the true story about the actual lack of ethics within games journalism that Gamergate is about. In a highly emotional interview, well, it would be, wouldn't it? Miss Quinn told the BBC how her life had completely changed after she had become embroiled in the row. Indeed it has. She's now earning several thousand more dollars a month on Patreon than she was previously. In August, an ex-boyfriend of Miss Quinn published a blog post that ran to thousands of words detailing intimate details about their relationship. Never mind the fact that it went on to actually address the issue of journalistic integrity and various other things like that, and then to do with her ruining people's game jams because of, accusations of misogyny, stealing money from charities by not actually making donations that she promised. But we're going to focus on just the relationship here, guys, because that's the important bit. The posts included an accusation that Miss Quinn had had a relationship with a journalist at prominent game sites Kotaku in an attempt to get positive reviews for her game Depression Quest. The allegation proved untrue, but the debate continued and is now approaching its third month. Now, I have a problem with these two paragraphs put next to each other, because the statement, the allegation proved untrue, makes it sound as if the above paragraph is entirely disproven. It has not been. It makes it sound like the allegation proved untrue, that she had a relationship with a journalist and got positive reviews for her game. No, she actively admitted to having relationships with people within the industry. No less than 5 of them, possibly more, because she actually even said in her post, it might have been more, I don't know, which is kind of a sad indictment for her own sense of morality, but whatever, we're going to ignore that. The only thing that was disproven, or the only thing that was proven untrue, was that Nathan Grayson, the journalist that she had the affair with, reviewed her game. He did not, but as I've covered in other videos and as other people have covered, he did name drop her and her game in several other articles that he was writing at around the time they were having the relationship, in ways where it seemed to be not necessary. The phrasing of that last sentence, "the debate is now continuing into its third month," also makes it sound as though the debate about Zoe Quinn's relationships is the thing that's continuing to the third month, when it isn't. That issue has been entirely superseded by the whole game journo pros, gamers are dead, all of that nonsense. Miss Quinn, who has not returned home since the initial threats, has been speaking at the annual Game City event in Nottingham, despite a previous threat that she would suffer a crippling injury the next time she went to a games conference. So once again, she's so terrified of all of this misogyny and all of this hatred going at her that she is still walking around in public and attending all of these engagements where she's being paid vast sums of money for doing so. Interesting that, isn't it? "I used to go to games events and feel like I was going home," Miss Quinn said. "Now it's like, are any of the people I'm currently in the room with the ones who said they wanted to beat me to death? It's terrifying. It sucks to not have any privacy. This has all been so public. It's more scrutiny than a politician faces." Yeah, no it isn't. Politicians get a lot more than this. A lot more. "It's living with constant fear in a place I called home. Some firms, such as Ubisoft, have come forward and said they were strongly against harassment, bullying, and threats. The Entertainment Software Association, a trade group for US developers, released a statement saying threats of violence and harassment are wrong, but Miss Quinn said she did not feel it went far enough." Well, of course she didn't. She's a professional victim. It's a very sad world that you live in, where a company has to publicly say, "We are against people being dicks to other people." That is something, a sentiment that should go without saying. You shouldn't ever in your life have to expressly say, "I oppose bullying, harassment, and violence." If you have to do that, you are doing something wrong, and you are dealing with some ultra-sensitive crybaby who really, massively needs to be mollycoddled in order to feel safe in their day-to-day life. We need everybody to stand up and condemn it, and not in this milquetoast, harassment is bad, you guys way, because they don't think that what they're doing is harassment. Well, you've basically just said that anyone who says, "You know what, do unto others, don't be a dick to people," is in some way harassing other people. That's not. That is actually the opposite of them. If I stand here and I say to someone, "Don't be an arse to other people, treat other people with the basic respect that you would like to be treated with," that's not me condoning harassment, you moron. Now, me calling you a moron is harassment, but you know what? I'm okay with it because you're a fucking moron. But anyway, she added, "When people that are prominently in the industry can stand up and say, 'I'm part of games, I love games, this hate mob doesn't speak for me, this is not welcome in games,' it has a twofold effect of making it less damaging to those that this can hurt, and it does something to repair this horrible misrepresentation of this medium that so many of us love. Condemning them and say they do not speak for games, it's so fundamental, otherwise this is going to keep happening. Hashtag not your shield. Jesus Christ. You've basically just said, stop talking for other people. And yet that is exactly what the social justice warrior side is doing. It's this wonderful thing, and one of my subscribers, I cannot remember who it is, introduced me to this concept of the white savior complex. These are the people who are the bastion of all things good, and they will defend other people by over-speaking them. They will actively just speak over other people. They will say that other people do not exist to push their narrative of, "I am the bastion of all that is good and right. I will defend the weak and the downtrodden. You do not exist. You person over there, you black person, you don't exist. You over there, gay person, you don't exist because you both oppose me. But I am defending you. I am protecting your rights." So maybe what Zoe Quinn here is saying is that the social justice warrior side should just give up what they're doing. They need to stop talking for other people. Individuals make individual choices, and individuals within Gamergate do not support harassment. There are a select few who do harass people, but you know what happens? They are completely shunned by the rest of Gamergate. The rest of the Gamergate movement says, well, they either don't know who they are, or when they do find them, they say, you know what, that's entirely inappropriate and they shouldn't be doing that. There is an active condemnation of that kind of behavior. Analysis of discussion about Gamergate has indicated that misogynistic abuse and vitriolic messages in general is not limited to either side of the argument. Well, no, it isn't, but mostly it seems to be coming from the social justice warrior side. Once again, I give you the gamers are dead, and bring back bullying, and the full Macintosh nonsense in general. But let's go on. Journalist Alum Bokhari, a writer for TechCrunch, has said there was credible evidence that at least one well-known trolling group was working to provoke both sides against each other. Citation needed. Meanwhile, some people previously offering highly vocal support of Gamergate have backed off. Well, yes, people supporting Gamergate have backed off, and people against Gamergate are backing off. In some cases, people are just getting absolutely burned out by it because they're following it 24 hours a day, and have done for 2 months. It's enough to cause any people to have mini mental breakdowns. And then we have a screen cap from Brianna Wu, one of the other literally who's in this entire thing, saying, "We are not people to them, just objects to be hunted and bullied until we quit the industry." Brianna, who the hell are you? No one has ever heard of you. No one knows who you are. The only reason you have anything to do with this is because you somehow got yourself onto NBC and started complaining about how you were a goddamn victim of everything. That is the only reason people know who you are, because you showed up and started saying you're being victimized while offering no evidence whatsoever, because the media loves a sob story. Oh, look, a woman's being harassed, or at least claiming she's being harassed. We're not going to ask for any evidence to be supplied. And there was even a video where some guy said, well, actually 90% of the tweets against you are entirely neutral. About 2% of tweets mentioning you were negative, and then there was this load of positive stuff as well. And she responded with, "Oh, it's a hit piece, I'm still a victim, rah-rah, misogyny, grrr." Through a snowball effect of misinformation, trolling, and ideological emotional bias on both sides, the issue has quickly descended into a quagmire, attracting trolls, extremists, and opportunists, needlessly stirring the pot of controversy, said one prominent figure who backed Gamergate, but wished to remain anonymous in this article. I wonder if that person's a game publisher or a game developer who doesn't wish to be slandered in the gaming media and instantly called a sexist, racist bigot by the social justice warrior side, appealing to people's emotional bias. I wonder. The harassment is ultimately an unfortunate variable affecting both sides of this situation, and it distresses me to see anyone live in fear. Well, as we can see, these people who are claiming to live in fear are still going to their public speaking engagements and still taking all of their money from these public speaking engagements. It's almost as if they actually aren't scared at all, and are just saying that they're scared in order to get money. But anyway. Dismissing Gamergate as a misogynistic hate movement is not going to make it go away, because it just simply is not that. It's a consumer boycott. Well done! Well done, that guy! You're the only person so far who has said anything that actually makes any sense. Good for you. Until we act like adults and come together to have a conversation on the ethics of games journalism, it's only going to get worse and worse. That's why I'm now choosing to distance myself from the issue. Now, this is a sentiment that in some ways I can actually appreciate, because it is. It is an issue of ethics in games journalism, and it needs to be discussed. However, the side that is anti-Gamergate and saying there is no problem and all gamers are misogynistic assholes and they're all straight white males and all of this nonsense refuse to speak with anyone. And in some ways, it's actually part problem of pro supporters of Gamergate as well, because there is no actual one person you can speak to deal with Gamergate. Now, I'm not advocating for a leader of Gamergate, because you can't have one, because it's a consumer revolt basically coming from thousands upon thousands of people all saying, you know what, we're just not going to support this anymore because we're sick of it. You know, you can address each person individually, but there is no one leader of it, and that is actually quite a good thing. Miss Quinn herself suggested that the gaming ethics argument could progress, but only if it distanced itself fully from the Gamergate tag. That's not going to happen, because everyone needs to be able to identify with one particular thing. If you have any care for this industry, if you have any care for the future of games, you need to leave. But if you left, then that's it. Then what happens? I mean, if people stop addressing Gamergate as an issue, is it going to go away? Well, no, it isn't. Things are going to go back to how it was before, with the massive amounts of nepotism and cronyism happening within the gaming industry. All of these feminist Marxist advisors going into games companies, like people from Leigh Alexander's company who... profoundly feminist and absolutely complete social justice warrior through and through who are saying, well, we're your reality check on your game. And that is a very, very dangerous place to be when you have someone that ideologically driven advising other people on what is and is not right for their product to have. If you have actual concerns, start over without Gamergate. If your concerns can't exist on their own, if they have to be supported off the back of ruining lives, then how legitimate are your concerns? Well, it's not about ruining lives. Gamergate did not start about being ruining lives. It started off as, all we want is, if a games journalist knows a games developer, they need to say that they know that game developer in the articles that they write about that guy's products. Not a problem. If a games developer or a games journalist are donating to each other on Patreon, or there is a one-way thing going on, or they have helped to kickstart it, they need to mention that so that people know that there is some sort of connection and some sort of vested interest, and then it won't be a problem, because then we'll know that there's some bias. We can still read your piece and say, well, I appreciate that you're biased. I know you have a slightly biased opinion, but I can take that on board with the full knowledge that you are going to display some favoritism. No one has any problems with that. The problem came when all of these media outlets declared gamers to all be straight white misogynistic assholes who were all dead, who all needed to just go away and leave gaming as an entire event. They just need to put down their controllers, leave their mouse and keyboard, and fuck right off over the hill so that social justice warriors can come in and play freaking Beige Cube Simulator, or whatever nonsense it is that they want to play that doesn't offend anyone. The problem is, when that happened, now it has actually become about ruining people's lives. There are sections of Gamergate who are now saying, look, before we just wanted you to recuse yourselves, we wanted you to be honest and upfront about what you're doing. Now we don't want you to have a job, because you cannot be trusted. As soon as you touch anything, and as soon as you do anything wrong, other people are just going to flock around you and defend this, and you're all in bed with each other, literally and metaphorically, and you're all going to back each other. You're all in positions of power where no one can get in, when no one can have a voice when they disagree with you, because when you do, you mass censor things. You censor Reddit, deleting thousands of threads, thousands of posts. You censor 4chan by somehow getting in bed with all of the mods there, or somehow becoming mods there. You censor everything. You want to turn the internet into your own little sodding echo chamber. That is why Gamergate has become about ruining lives. And considering, Zoe Quinn, you're earning about $3,000 a month on Patreon, tax-free, for doing nothing, I would hardly say your life is ruined. As well as Miss Quinn, other women in the games industry have had to leave home due to threats to their safety, including Brianna Wu, a developer in Boston, and Anita Sarkeesian, a feminist writer and commentator. These people have not had to leave their homes. Okay, I am going to state that as a definitive. No one has forced them to, they have chosen to. Now, normally when someone receives a death threat that is credible online, the FBI and the police, or whichever service or force you want to go to, dependent on your country, advises you, do not address it, do not make it public, do not change what you are doing, we will investigate it and we will find these people. Now, what has happened with people like Quinn, Sarkeesian, and Wu, they have made these threats absolutely as public as possible. They have tweeted them, they have retweeted them, they have made YouTube videos about them, they probably got them tattooed on their fucking foreheads so that everyone can see them. Which is completely the wrong thing to do, and it's playing into this, look at me, I'm such a victim thing. Because as soon as they publish anything about this, it's inevitably followed by, oh, I've been chased out of my house, I need some money to go and stay somewhere, here's my Patreon account. Can you see where this is going now? So they fly in the face of all advice given to them on how to deal with this properly. They are using it to garner sympathy because they know, they absolutely know that society condemns violence in all forms, but especially violence against women. It condemns rape threats, condemns violent threats. It condemns all of these things. You know, this condemnation of rape threats, this condemnation of threats against women, that is so prevalent in our society. They are playing on the gynocentric nature of the society that we live in. They are absolutely playing on it because they know that they can get a lot of sympathy and a lot of support for it, whereas if they kept quiet, they wouldn't be able to. And because they're so vocal about it, that gives them all of these speaking engagements they can go to. It gives them the opportunity to be interviewed for all this. It funds their lifestyle. Miss Quinn said it was important to keep talking about the issue openly. I don't want to set an example that you can do this and get what you want. Except that that's exactly what's happened to you. I have a folder on my desktop called Those Who Left. Every time someone sends me a message saying, "Hey, I really admire your strength, but it's not worth it for me. I'm leaving. I save these. I'm going to hopefully go back through it in a few years, and maybe they'll be back." As for whether she should be able to continue her own career, she said, "I love games more than they hate me." So, yeah, great. Continue doing what you're doing, but here's the thing. After all of this nonsense, and after what you did with the Polaris Game Jam, with the accusations of misogyny there, after your failure to donate to any of the charities that you said you were going to, after trying to profiteer off the death of Robin Williams to get even more publicity for your game, no one should touch people like this with a barge pole when it comes to hiring. But unfortunately, there is this crazy feminist Marxist San Francisco Bay culture where people like Leigh Alexander can say things like, "Oh, well, I just declared gamers dead. I still have a job." It's like, yeah, because guess what? All the people you work with and around support your ideology. Because that's what you guys have aimed for. You have all aimed to have this clique of yours where you all support each other unquestioningly. You all cite each other's papers. You all review each other's products. You all support each other financially. You all support each other ideologically. And you shut down any dissenting voice or opinion. You do not allow people who oppose you to have a voice on any public forum. Why do you think people like Zoe Quinn tried to get Mundane Matt's video taken down, the one about the Lover Scorned, where he actually called attention to this, using a false DMCA order? Because she wanted to shut down a silencing voice. She wanted to shut down the opposition early. And that's what's caused Gamergate to explode. It's the Streisand effect, and it's a beautiful thing, and guess what? Gamergate is here to stay. It is not going away anytime soon until metaphorical heads roll and there is actually some sort of shakedown within the games media industry, within the gaming industry in general, within the games publishing, the games development industry, and things actually start working as they should do, where people stop calling attention to gender, stop calling attention to race, stop pointing out all of this stuff, stop using all of these isms as a means of trying to justify your behavior. Let people make games that they want, let people buy and play games that they want, and a free and open market will ensure good things rise to the top and bad things stay down, as long as there is an impartial media informing people of what is out there and what they can do without trying to push their own agendas. So now that we've trawled our way all to the end of that nonsense, with the ultimate victim complex people attempting to reinsert themselves into a narrative that they have no place in, well, needless to say, there is a video coming out about this later, the full Zoe Quinn interview, which I will probably be covering in a video. I would appreciate it if anyone would tweet this video of mine out onto the YouTube hashtag for Gamergate and things like that, because I am not on Twitter. It's far too much nonsense for me to deal with. And I will probably be forwarding this video, or at least this article, on to some of the other more prominent Gamergate people. I reckon Sargon of Akkad will probably enjoy this one. Being a fellow Brit, I'm sure he would find that incredibly entertaining.